Start. All right, I will call to order a special meeting, the Willington Board of Selectmen at 6:30 today, April 12th, 2021. The item on our agenda is discuss and take action on the annual budget process. So I'm going to start with making a motion and then we can have discussion as long as there's a second. So I move pursuant to Governor Ned Lamont's Executive Order number 10E, Section 2H, to adjust the previously planned budget events, the annual town meeting, and subsequent budget referendum from April 20th, 2021 to a date no later than June 8th, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. So I'll share with you how we got to this place. Last Tuesday on the 6th, late in the afternoon came the Executive Order 10E, which has multiple sections referring to absentee balloting and voting during the pandemic. Section 2H refers specifically to modification of municipal and regional board of education budget adoption timelines. So what that does is allows towns and regional boards of education to adjust their timelines that are set by either charter or statute. We are governed by state statute in the absence of a charter. And so the reason I brought this to the attention of the Board of Finance is, as you know, we are set to receive in total over a 2-year period of time, $1.7+ million from American Rescue Plan funds. And there are guidelines that we have not gotten much clarification on how those dollars can be spent. I believe that there are multiple items within this budget that for the most part are one-time purchases, not ongoing budgetary items that could be removed from our budget. And these funds could be used in that manner. With the additional time, we could lessen that budget instead of paying or passing those costs along to taxpayers and then using these funds to purchase them anyway, if we can make those adjustments. So I spent from last Tuesday until today working on a suggested timeline that could get all of this done. And once we have those guidelines, the federal government, the Treasury, has 60 days to turn over the guidelines and the funds to the state. So that would be May 11th. So if between May 11th and June 8th, we should be able to hold the adoption of the budget from the Board of Finance, a town meeting, and then a separate referendum for just the Willington budget. I did reach out to Region 19 and they do not intend to alter their budget adoption dates, and theirs are set by statute in a very specific time frame. Between the statute and the our own Willington's own annual budget ordinance, we are not beholden to very specific dates. And I did run the motion that I made before you by our town attorney, and we worked with the governor's office to make sure it was in keeping with the meaning of the executive order. This is not intended to change the referendum process. There would still be a referendum and our annual town meeting first. That will not change. People will still come out and vote. It just allows a little bit longer a time frame to really get a solid budget to our taxpayers that we may be able to remove items from. And I think that that's important. It would mean 2 budget referendum. It would mean one on May 4th, just for Region 19, and then one no later than June 8th, just for Willington General Government and Board of Education. Any other discussion?
Yes,
John?
June 8th
Is there any particular reason why we chose that as the date? We have till June 30th, I believe, don't we?
We do have till June 30th, John. I thought that by the time, if we get those guidelines, I think I've already been going through the budget and have some idea of some things that from the selectmen side, we can remove, that the Board of Finance could successfully remove from that budget. And I think that would allow us to hold all of the necessary meetings, have a referendum, if successful, be able to send print tax bills and get them out on June 30th. The longer we wait, the more we risk having to do a supplemental tax bill, because we still have to have tax bills out. So if there were an adjustment to the mill rate and it didn't happen before June 30, we would then need to send a supplemental bill. So I think this would allow us that time frame. We could certainly adjust, we could alter or amend my motion to June 30. I chose that date because I really believe we were far enough along in the process that we can still make this work in that amount of time. And that's what I've been working on with others in this building, working with the registrars in the town clerk's office and the tax office to make sure we map out the process to see if all these things happened. Could we still get all of our work done before June 30?
And May 11th is when we're basically going to have to start this process, right?
Correct.
That's the date when we will have the guidelines,
That's when we're supposed to.
which will
It's
mean,
possible they come earlier.
well,
It's possible.
this is the government. I'm
That's right.
counting on May 11th.
That's right.
So then we are going to have meetings of, we'll have to be meeting, the Board of Education will have to meet on their side of the, and go over the budget. Then it's going to have to be presented to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance is going to have to take at least one meeting to square it away. Then it's going to have to go to the budget, then there's going to have to be another hearing, I'm sure, another budget hearing. And wow, that's for May 11th. Our meeting maybe on the 17th would be where we would go over it. That's our regular meeting. Board of Ed probably would have to have a special meeting. I think they'd be.
Well, so John, let me step back a bit. I'm not sure the funds that are coming in are, this board cannot make any changes to the Board of Education budget. If they do, that's separate from our budget. And the dollars, the ARP dollars that are coming in are town dollars, not Board of Education. So it's less likely they'll have to make a change on their end. They already know what funds that they're getting and how that they're using their dollars. We don't believe we have to hold a full budget hearing again, but it could be done in the similar process as they had last time, hearing, and then budget hearing, and then Board of Finance meeting right after to adopt a budget. And so it's not going to, I believe, let's say May 11th, we received the guidance. It's not going to take that much time to go through it. Again, I have many a suggestion from this board of what we can remove from the budget that are, one-time expenditures. What we don't want to do are take out regular operating costs. They wouldn't be necessarily COVID related, and we don't want to put ourselves off a fiscal cliff down the road. And then hold a Board of Selectmen meeting to call a town meeting, hold the town meeting, and then a referendum. So I believe that can all be done in that time frame suggested. Again, that could move up if for some reason Treasury, by some miraculous turn of events, has these guidelines prepared prior to May 11th. They have until May 11th to turn the dollars over to the state. Last time we got the guidance before the money was turned over, and we're hoping that will be the case now.
So,
Liza, did you have any?
Yeah. So two things. One thing, we already know some general guidelines for the use of the funding. So I know that there's already been some thought put into that from multiple parties. So once we get the final confirmation of exactly what can and cannot be used, I don't imagine it's going to be a very long turnaround to then say, okay, yes, this box that we, or this line item that we identified does meet the criteria, this one does not, and so forth. The other piece is this only will make our budget, our expenses less. So it's not like we're going to have conversations about this $1.7 million coming in, and then somehow the town budget's going to be higher than what it was before. So it's going to alleviate some of our stress and pressures. So I don't imagine this is going to be a very arduous or long process. Because there's going to be guidelines about how it can be used. It's not like we can just say, all right, let's just take this $1.7 million and apply it to anything we want. I think it's going to be a very, very streamlined, structured, fairly clearly implementable plan that we're going to have to work with. And it's not like we have carte blanche on how to use this funding. So
Right. Yeah, there's going to be nothing new added to the budget. It's whether or not we recommend to the Board of Finance that they go ahead and take some things out of the budget because we can in fact use these dollars, and then save that not tax our residents on these items. So removing from an already presented budget, an already presented at a public hearing budget. And so they were at the point where they were adopting the budget, and that's where they kind of froze. They had the budget hearing and then they froze at the actual adoption of a budget portion, so that if we could suggest they cut some things, that maybe we go ahead and do that. And there did seem to be last Tuesday a consensus from the Board of Finance to hold off to see if we could not pass along some of these items. Again, look, they're all tax dollars, right? They're federal dollars. It's not the money's coming from nowhere, but what we don't want to do is tax again and then be able to purchase these things or spend these dollars again with local taxpayer dollars.
Okay.
John?
Could you give me your timeline again for this now?
Sure. So worst case scenarios, we don't get guidance until May 11th, that no later than June 8th, I believe we could hold a referendum, the budget adoption, a town meeting call, a town meeting, and then the June referendum, not necessarily on June 8th, but before June 8th. And so at our next Board of Selectmen meeting, you will hear me talk about some things I believe we can take out of our portion of that. I would suggest the Board of Finance remove from our portion of the budget. And again, we're only talking about taking things that were already budgeted for, no additional additions, subtractions, any of that.
So you don't believe that another hearing would be necessary at all? It would be
No, because the budget was already presented. They were just adopting, right? So they heard all that they could hear, and then they would determine whether or not they made any adjustments to the budget. And so that's what, I see some head shaking, disagreeing on that. It's not to say that they won't need another hearing, and there would be time in there for another hearing. So I can amend my motion to say by June 30, if that would make you all feel a little bit better about it.
I think yes, that would by June 30, and that way we can adjust the time. So yeah, I would second that amendment if that's what's called for.
yeah, I'm fine with that as long as, again, it is the goal, because obviously anytime we're sending out supplemental tax bills, that's added cost and not an insignificant cost, and time, and also confusing for taxpayers and cumbersome. So I do think doing everything we can to make sure that we get everything situated so that we can just do one printing and one mailing, if at all possible, that would be ideal.
I agree. Any further discussion? Okay,
So
so-
can we,
John?
could we have the motion read as it stands now?
Yes, so as amended, the motion is to pursuant to Governor Ned Lamont's executive order number 10E, section 2H, to adjust the previously planned budget events, the annual town meeting and subsequent budget referendum from April 20, 2021 to a date no later than June 30, 2021.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so just to be clear, the first vote on the budget will have to have been held by June 30. So the town meeting will have to be before that. We have to go from town meeting to that. And it was a little bit more flexible for us because our annual budget ordinance, unlike some charters, does not give a time frame. It just says it has to be held. And then after discussion of the budget, we set a date and a time in which to vote. And so we will still do all of those things. All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Mushinski.
Aye. Motion carries. That was the only item on the agenda for this evening. So seeing no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
There's I'll second. It's a non-debatable matter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you adding an extra meeting to your calendar.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. See you next Monday.
Bye.